It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. Let's get out of here. Aye. Hey everybody, we're on Revelation 8. How are you doing?
Good. How you doing, husband?
Good, wife. Let's do it. Revelation chapter 8. So, we've done the first 7 chapters together. And Revelation 1, Jesus is showing up to John. Revelation 2, letter to the churches. Revelation 3, more letters to the churches. Revelation 4, we're seeing an example of the alive in Christ in the throne room. The lampstands are there. The 24 elders are there representing the priesthood. They're saying a prayer. We're there. We're kings and priests in chapter 5. Chapter 6, the seals are being opened. Revelation 7, pause, zoom out. Before and after the 7-year tribulation, the 144,000 are being sealed. And here we are.
You need to take a breath?
In Revelation 8. And so this is a chapter where it's significant, but it's just general judgment that's coming on the earth, and this is happening after the rapture has happened. So there are some interesting details in here that we can tie back to Exodus. We'll do that. But this isn't one of those big chapters for me. It's not like I study this and go, wow, Revelation 8, that's like, there's nothing super, super significant for me, but the wormwood is interesting, and it does bring us back to Exodus. So let's read it and bounce around a bit. So this is the 7th seal, and in terms of the timing, I'm not too sure when this is happening. Again, this is at some point during the tribulation. We have some hints though, so we have some things we can speculate on. But anyway, here it is, Revelation chapter 8. When he opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. Okay, so that might be a hint as to this might be at the midpoint, because back in Revelation 3, verse 10, it says, I will keep you from the hour of trial, which shall come upon the whole world. Okay, hour of trial, half hour of silence, that kind of language. Maybe it's a midpoint. Again, Revelation 8, I'm not too concerned about the timing. We just know that these things are happening at some point during the tribulation. But there's one speculation. Maybe it's around the midpoint. I don't know. Verse 2, and I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. Then another angel, having a golden censer, came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar, which was before the throne. I'm going to pause and say a couple things. So the prayers of the saints being connected with the incense. So Rapture Day, we talked about this, is the high priest collecting his priesthood. We have the table of showbread, which represents 24 persons. We talked about that. The lampstands represent the churches. There's 3 pieces of furniture in the tabernacle in the first room. Mm-hmm. And then when you get past the veil, it's the Holy of Holies. But in that first room, you have the table of showbread. You get the lampstand, the table of showbread to the right as the high priest walks in, the lampstands to the left as he walks in, and then the altar of incense right in the middle. And that represents the prayers of the saints. So we have, what we're seeing here in Revelation 8 is more development of this whole temple structure that we saw in the book of Exodus with Moses and Aaron, particularly Aaron. Mm-hmm. Aaron was the high priest that took care of a lot of this stuff back in the book of Exodus. So it's the prayers of the saints here. So I'm going to read verse 4 now with that in mind as we're developing this tabernacle model. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints ascended before God from the angel's hand. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it to the earth. And there were noises, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake.
Your Bible says voices or noises?
Noises. Thanks for the correction. Yeah.
Okay.
And
my Bible says voices.
Voices. Oh, neat. Okay, so you're reading the King James version. I've got the New King James version that I'm reading out of.
Okay.
So okay, voices or noises. Okay. Sounds good. Either one's good. Mm-hmm. I wonder what that Greek word is. Let's see. Just so we know. What verse was that again? It was
5.
5. That word is phone in Greek. G5456. A tone, an address, a saying or language, noise or voices. Noise, sounds or voices. So yeah, there were noises or voices, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake. So the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. Okay, so that's this introduction, and in the first 6 verses. The thing about this, though, is in verse 5, it says there's a censer, it's coming, there's fire, and it's from the altar. And it's the altar of incense. So there was the altar of incense in the tabernacle, which is connected to the prayers of the saints. Not to be confused with the bronze altar that's outside of the tabernacle where they would make the sacrifices. And bronze is more of a judgment thing. And inside the tabernacle, gold is the metal of gold isn't judgment. But these prayers are, in a way, a redemptive judgment to what's going on. The prayers of the saints might be related to that seal, that 5th seal, the cry of the martyrs, possibly. Not quite sure about that, but probably connected with that. And we have to do this too in Leviticus 16, which again is in the first 5 books of the Bible. A lot of these answers come from there. It is the Day of Atonement, and in particular Leviticus 16 verse 12, it says, this is on the Day of Atonement, this is what Aaron's doing, the high priest. And he shall take a censer full of burning coals of fire, from the altar before the Lord with his hands, full of sweet incense beaten fine, and bring it inside the veil. And he shall put the incense on the fire before the Lord, that the cloud of incense may cover the mercy seat that is on the testimony, lest he die. So this is very related to what we see in Leviticus 16, particularly on the Day of Atonement. So there might be some connection there. You know, like I said, I don't know about the timing of this, but what if, since Revelation 8 verse 5, it's so similar to how it's written in Leviticus 16 verse 12, which is specifically the Day of Atonement. So what if it's possible that Revelation 8 begins on one of the Day of Atonements during the 7 years? You know, maybe it's the first year in the fall, or the second year of the fall, or the third year in the fall, or the fourth year in the fall. I don't know. That's another way to speculate about the timing of this event, because it's so tied to Leviticus 16. Come to your own conclusions. That's what Chuck Mister would say. Chuck, so come to your own conclusions on the timing of Revelation 8. I'm not sure. I'm very open-minded at this point. So one interesting thing to note, though, is at the end of Leviticus 16, it says, "This shall be an everlasting statute for you, to make atonement for the children of Israel for all their sins once a year." And he did as the Lord commanded Moses. So the Day of Atonement was the day that the high priest would enter the Holy of Holies once a year to atone for the sins of Israel. So the Day of Atonement is a big deal. It's a big day for Israel. It's when the high priest went in to atone for their sins. And that happened on the Day of Atonement. So that's one of the reasons why many people believe that the second coming is tied to Day of Atonement, because it's got a lot to do with the redemption of Israel, this 7-year time period. And it's also called Jacob's trouble, which is Israel, because Jacob's name was changed to Israel.
Okay, so the priest will go in there and atone for all the sins. The angel casted the fire onto the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Any kind of sort of connection?
Yeah, so the angel is doing this work, and I think it's part of the reason why the angel is doing this work is because Jesus himself, during the 7 years, is with us. The Lamb is actually with us, so his angels are doing the work, bringing on the judgment. We're going to see that too in Revelation 16. I'm pretty sure it's specific angels carrying the bowls. Yeah, the 7 angels carrying bowls in Revelation 16. So a lot of the angels are doing the work, and it's not so much directly the Lamb. So my guess would be, for that reason, he is standing back and letting the angels do the work, letting the 2 witnesses do the work that he's sending for 3.5 years. And there you go. So What do you think about that? Does that kind of make a bit of sense? Okay, so then if we read on, there's the first trumpet, second trumpet, third trumpet, fourth trumpet. So yeah, there's 7 seals in the book of Revelation. There's 7 trumpets. There's 7 bowls. They represent different things at different times. And so this first trumpet, it says the first angel, this is verse 7. The first angel sounded.
Oh, but we skipped over we skipped over 6.
Oh, did I? Okay. Okay, so let's go back. Revelation 8, verse 6. So the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. Okay. So verse 7 now. The first angel sounded, and hail and fire followed, mingled with blood. And they were thrown to the earth, and a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. Okay, there's just one little connection here. When Moses and Aaron were taking the children of Israel out of Egypt, out of their slavery, there was many plagues, and the 7th plague is very similar to this. So in Exodus chapter 9, I don't have it pencil marked here, but chapter 9, verse 24, it says, So there was hail and fire mingled with the hail, so very heavy that there was none like it in all the land of Egypt, since it became a nation. And the hail struck throughout the whole land of Egypt, all that was in the field, both man and beast, and the hail struck every herb of the field and broke every tree of the field. Only in the land of Goshen, where the children of Israel were, there was no hail. Okay, so that's another interesting thing too, which maybe could help us with the timing of Revelation 8. So this is where my memory is a little foggy, but some of the plagues, if not all of them, but I think some of them, it says here in the 4th plague, and in that day I will set apart the land of Goshen. I think it looks like maybe the 4th seal and on, it didn't affect the Israel who were in a little place called Goshen. So we'll have to do some homework, or you guys can do your own homework, but there are certain plagues that didn't hit particularly Israel in Goshen. So this 7th plague is, the vocabulary is very similar to what we see in Revelation 8, verse 7. So in terms of timing, we know that Israel is protected in the wilderness for 3.5 years out of the 7. So it's possible, because of this comparison, that the first trumpet is maybe in the latter half of the 7 years, because it relates to the 7th plague in Egypt, where Israel was protected from this plague. Maybe, maybe not. So speculation, that's all it is at this point. But anyway, either way, judgment. There's a third of the trees and were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. Sounds pretty bad. Okay, so the second trumpet, verse 8. Then the second angel sounded, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea. And a third of the sea became blood. And a third of the living creatures in the sea died. And a third of the ships were destroyed. Okay, well, this kind of sounds like Exodus chapter 7, the first plague, where the waters were turned to blood. So, Exodus 7, verse 20, and Moses and Aaron did so just as the Lord commanded. So he lifted up the rod and struck the waters that were in the river in the sight of Pharaoh and in the sight of his servants, and all the waters that were in the rivers were turned to blood. So there's a comparison there. Take it for what it is. It's judgment. There you go. Okay, verse 10, the third trumpet, the water struck. Then the third angel sounded, and a great star fell from heaven, burning like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star is wormwood. A third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the water because it was made bitter. Okay, for me, this is the most significant verse in chapter 8. Wormwood. Why? Okay, so some people are saying that there's going to be an asteroid coming, and they called it wormwood, and that's in 2029. Now, that might be true. That might be false. That's not what is significant for me. I'm not too much into that whole thing, but people are expecting an asteroid in 2029 to hit the Earth or come very close to it or something. But internally in the Bible itself, the exciting thing is wormwood is connected to Old Testament stuff. And so when a woman was suspected to have caused to be involved with adultery, you would bring her to the high priest, and he would make her drink a bitter drink. And that's in Numbers chapter 5. And if she's guilty, then I think it says her stomach would rot or her leg would rot or something like that. And that's in Numbers chapter 5. Let me see if I can get a better verse to reference here. So that's basically in the whole chapter of Numbers chapter 5 with unfaithful wives. And it says in verse 21, then the priest shall put the woman under the oath of the curse, and he shall say to the woman, the Lord make you a curse and an oath among your people when the Lord makes your thigh rot and your belly swell. Okay, so basically, if she was guilty, her thigh would rot. And if she was innocent, then nothing bad would happen with her, with this bitter drink. Okay? Mm-hmm. So the thing with this, though, is in Jeremiah 25, or is it 23 now? Just gonna go get it. Mm, 23. Yeah. So Jeremiah 23, verse 15, he's talking to Jerusalem. And throughout Jeremiah and Ezekiel, he's calling Jerusalem an adulterous wife. He's calling her a harlot because she's been messing around with other gods, worshiping other gods. And so he's constantly calling Jerusalem in particular a harlot and an adulterous wife. And it says here in Jeremiah 23:15, therefore, thus says the Lord of hosts concerning the prophets, behold, I feed them with wormwood and make them drink the water of gall. For from the prophets of Jerusalem, profaneness has gone out into all the land. So this wormwood is connected with this bitter drink that a unfaithful wife is supposed to be drinking to test her. Okay? So in Numbers chapter 5, again, if your wife's unfaithful, she drinks this drink, and if she's guilty, her stomach rots. Well, God is calling Jerusalem a harlot and adulteress, and so she's going to symbolically drink this wormwood, this bitter drink. Makes sense? Mm-hmm. So, and many people that have been following me understand why I believe that the harlot in Revelation 17 is Jerusalem, because Jeremiah talks about it, Ezekiel talks about it, so many other books talk about it. The Bible basically flat out calls Jerusalem a harlot. And in Revelation 17, the harlot has fornicated with all the kings of the world, and Jerusalem has been around with Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, still doing its thing. So there's a lot to talk about on that, but we can talk about that when we get to Revelation 17. But anyway, we've got this wormwood here in chapter 8. And yes, it could be this flying rock that hits the earth. And maybe it is a literal thing. But it could also be more of a figurative thing as it relates to the Old Testament, symbolically drinking this wormwood for being unfaithful. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So that is the third trumpet, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That even in Exodus 32, when they worshiped the golden cow, Moses and Aaron, Moses went up the mountain and they made a golden cow and they started worshiping it. And I know, it's just bizarre. It's so bizarre. God takes them out of Egypt. They're in the wilderness. They're in the desert. And God gives them the commandments in Exodus 20. Don't worship any other gods and don't make any molded images of gods. You know, the 10 Commandments, all the other rules. Observe the Sabbath. Don't commit adultery. Don't steal. Don't murder. You know. Okay, we got it. So Moses goes up on the mountain. He's gone for a little while. And they make a golden cow. And comes back down. And Moses goes, what are you guys doing? And then he grounds down the gold. And he makes them drink this bitter drink. Because they've committed idolatry, which is basically the same as adultery. They cheated on God with another god. that's kind of another type of this wormwood thing. And just another rabbit trail too. I think that's why God instituted marriages and families, because I think he wanted us to understand how we're supposed to connect with him as well, and how we're supposed to interact with each other. But that's just a little side note on that. So we understand God through relationships as well. Okay, continuing on through the reading here. Verses 12 and 13. Then the fourth angel sounded, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened. A third of the day did not shine, and likewise the night. Okay, so basically, what's going on here, it looks like it's just going to be darker. It's going to be 30% less light in the day. The night's going to be even darker. And that's what it looks to be the case. And that kind of relates to the ninth plague. And that would be in Exodus chapter 10. This is the darkness thing. So the 3 days of darkness that we see about in Exodus chapter 10, which is the ninth plague. So in particular, we could just read verse 21. So Exodus 9, 21 through 23. Then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, darkness which may even be felt. So Moses stretched out his hand toward heaven, and there was thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. They did not see one another, nor did anyone rise from his place for 3 days. But all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. So Israel wasn't affected by this, but the people were, and they felt the darkness. And so it says over here that 1/3 of the sun is dimmed, or a third of the sun is struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened. So everything's darker. And I bet you it's going to feel darker as well. If it says 1/3, so 33% is 1/3. That might be literal. I don't know. Then verse 13, and I looked, and I heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, because of the remaining blast of the trumpet of the 3 angels who are about to sound. So that's the end of chapter 8. I don't exactly know where to put it in the timeline, but again, we have some relationships to Leviticus 16, which is a Day of Atonement thing. So maybe it could start on any Day of Atonement out of the 7 years, maybe. Maybe it's at around the midpoint, because it kind of connects with how in some of these plagues that relate to the book of Exodus, it didn't affect them in Goshen. In the timeline of our 7 years, the woman is protected for the last 3.5 years. So whenever it happens, though, clearly there's some type of judgment at some point. And we can see almost not the completion, but further detail of the temple furniture being collected. So now in Revelation 8, we have the altar of incense being represented through the prayers. The 24 elders would be connected to the 12 tables of showbread, because it's the portions equal to 24 heads. The lampstands is the churches. And so we have this high priest thing. And so here we are in 2026. Aaron was the high priest, 26th generation from Adam, if you follow the Levitical line after Jacob. Kind of neat. So that's the 8th chapter. There you go. Any thoughts before we close it out?
No.
All right. So there's Revelation 8. And Revelation 9 is kind of a similar chapter. It's another judgment chapter. So I would say 8 and 9 are kind of in this similar ballpark of judgment stuff. Again, it's one of those things where I don't exactly know the timing of Revelation 9. I don't put a lot of emphasis on it, because it's just stuff that's happening during it at some point. So, but we should read it. It'll help shape some understanding for sure. So thanks for hanging out, guys. Hope this is blessing you and answering some questions, and maybe bringing up some more questions. But as Chuck Muster would always say, come to your own conclusions. Be nice. Oh, here's another tip. General tip. Be sure your heart is open and soft when reading the Bible. Picture soil, and you're planting seeds. And in cup A, it's nice, soft. It's got a lot of minerals in it. It's, you know, drop a seed in that and something grows. But then over here, picture hard, really hard, almost concrete like dirt. The seed's gonna have a harder time germinating and growing in that. So in order to receive the word, in order to receive the truth of God, be humble, have a good heart, be teachable, be willing to change your mind, because that represents the soil. And over a couple of years, if you don't have a good soil of receiving, you're not really going to grow much. But if you do have a heart of being teachable, you're going to grow and you're going to be able to change. And when the truth comes and it's planted in good soil, you're going to receive it properly and it's going to grow. So I've seen over the years now that I've been doing this for a while, when I'm talking to somebody and they have a hard heart, they're not receiving something. Really simple. Likewise for me, so I got to do that too. So if somebody comes and corrects me, I got to be like, yeah, you're right. I'm wrong. I got to be able to change if the truth comes. So, but you can't absorb the truth if your soil, your heart, is hard. And so that's why I think in Jeremiah, is it 29? Let me just grab the verse. Yeah, Jeremiah 29:13. We'll end with this. Jeremiah 29:13. And you will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. So it's yes, of course, we got to be analytical. We got to use our brains and stuff. Of course, we have to be academic about this. More important than that is you've got to search him with all your heart. There's got to be a good heart posture, and you've got to be able to be corrected. We have to be able to be corrected and redirected when the truth hits you and the right understanding comes. It's like a seed being planted in, fertile soil or whatever. Good soil. So prepare your heart like good soil as you read the Bible, and you'll grow. Okay? All right. Go, Jesus, go. Adios. Bye.